One of the most important indicators of whether or not you have a healthy relationship or not has everything to do with how you deal with conflict. It's not whether or not you have conflict or not. Every relationship has conflict. It's how you deal with it, how you initiate the repair after you've gone through some kind of conflict. Almost everybody has this internal system that sees conflict as a threat. And so we have a couple different responses to that. This is kind of overgeneralization, but most people fit somewhere in the spectrum between flight and fight, right? If you're over here on this spectrum with flight, then you're more interested in avoiding conflict than solving conflict. If you're over here on the fight side, this extreme over here, you're more interested in winning the conflict than you are resolving the conflict. And whether or not you're on flight or fight, they both come with kind of a set of unhealthy things, right? Nobody's right smack in the middle on that spectrum. But again, for me, what I'm more concerned about is not whether you're flight or fight. It has everything to do with once that conflict is over, how do you go about repairing that relationship? Let me give you 3 just real quick steps, all right? The first thing I would say is check in with the other person to see who wants to initiate the repair. Often when there's a conflict or some kind of argument, there's one person that's been hurt more than the other. And so maybe in that moment, whoever can put aside their stuff momentarily is the one who initiates the repair. All right. Once you decide on who wants to initiate the repair, the second step is how you bring that conflict forward. All right. So let me give you some questions that I think would be important for you. Use these as prompts if you're ready to initiate repair. Okay. Questions like this. I took some time to think about what happened and why that was such a trigger for me is blank. Here's what I understood about what I was feeling. How I'd like to do that differently moving forward is... what I think could help me that you could do differently is blank. Then maybe after that, it's questions like this. I'd like to understand what you were feeling. Could you tell me? What did that experience remind you of? What do you need from me in that space? What do you think we need to do differently in order to maintain connection? See, that's the key thing. What does it take to maintain connection? Because again, whether you're flight or fight, what happens with both of those defense mechanisms is the connection's broken. What we're doing when we initiate repair is we're not solving who is right or who is wrong or who is more to blame or who lost it in that moment. It's all about how do we initiate repair? In other words, how do we make that connection happen again? And so the third step is really important, is to check in with each other. Make sure that you both feel heard and understood. Literally ask the other one, did you feel heard and understood? Yeah, and then they should ask you if you feel heard and understood. It's really important because it's in that moment when you feel heard and you feel understood that the connection's regained. All right? So again, it's not about whether or not you have conflict. Of course you have conflict. It's all about how do you deal with that conflict? How quickly can you begin to initiate repair so that relationship can move forward?